Okay, so I'll show you guys how I did this one, and hopefully you got it correct. Um, so factoring out the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor of these things is actually just 2. So I'll take a factor of 2 out from each of them. I'm going to leave the negative in that first term. So negative 6t squared plus 23t plus 4. And then I'll work on factoring that. My factors for negative 6 are going to be negative 1 and 6, negative 6 and 1, negative 2 and 3, negative 3 and 2. And then my factors for 4 are going to be 1 and 4, or 2 and 2. So I have to think about what is going to get me that 23 in the middle. I think if I do negative 1t, which I could also just write as negative t, and positive 6t, and I want plus 4 and plus 1. So what's going to happen is if I were to multiply that out, I would get the negative 1 times the 6, which gives me negative 6t squared. The negative 1 times the 1 gives me negative 1t. And 4 times 6 gives me positive 24t. And then the 4 and the 1 gives me plus 4. So these two terms will combine to give me that 23t that I was looking for. So that is my answer. When you don't factor out the greatest common factor, there can be some ambiguity. There's sometimes, basically, think about this. Like, I could multiply this 2 into here, and I could get one set of factors. I could also multiply the 2 into here and get a different set of factors. Both would be correct. So when you don't factor out that greatest common factor, there's a possibility that you would get the right answer, but it would be different than somebody else's answer, which was also correct. And I think that's important to note. I probably should have mentioned it sooner, because it's possible on this very first one that we did that you got an answer different from mine, because there's a factor of 2 in, actually there's a factor of 4 in here. And so if you got a different answer than this, that doesn't mean you were wrong. You could have got a different answer than this and been correct. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is called factoring completely, which means a couple things. It means we're factoring in a way where all the right answers will look the same, and we're factoring so that there are no common factors throughout the terms. Now you'll notice here there's an x in all of them. Also, all these numbers are divisible by 3. So I'm going to factor out a 3x from this. When I factor out that 3x, 9x to the 3 is going to become 3x squared. 3x squared is going to become just x, and minus 30x is going to become 10. You can see if I took the time to multiply this 3 back in to each of the terms and distribute it, I would get the same thing that I started with, so I know this is an equivalent expression. All right, so now that I've factored out a greatest common factor, which included an x this time, which is a little new, I can work on this. Well, my first term is good because it's a prime number, so it's just 1 times 3. My second term is negative 10. That's got a few more things going on. That could be negative 1 and 10. It could be negative 10 and 1. It could be negative 2 and 5, or it could be negative 5 and 2. I need them to add to 1, and one of them is going to get multiplied by a 3 because my first terms are going to be 3 and 1. So 3x and 1x, or just x. And so it looks to me like if I have a positive 10 and a negative 1, no, that won't work. If I have the negative 5 and the positive 2, because the positive 2, that gets multiplied by 3, it'll be 6, and the negative 5 gets multiplied by 1. Those two, 3 times 2, 6x. These are my middle terms. And negative 5 times x is negative 5x, and those two will combine to give me that 1x that I was looking for in the middle. Don't forget we had a 3x out front, so this is factored completely. There's no common factors in the terms. And then it is factored. So there's only, once you take those common factors out, there's only one way to get the correct answer. Okay, so make sure you factor out any common factors and then do what you learned before to factor the rest of it. All right, here's one for you to try on your own. Make sure there's no common factors in it when you get your final answer. I'll do one more video where I go over the answer to this, and then I'll give you guys a bunch more of these to practice. Good luck.